Welcome, my friends, to another edition of More Bad News, brought to you, as always, by Camel Cigarettes. Take the Camels Challenge, smoke Camels for 30 days, and see for yourself what a difference Camels can make in your life. My friends, in honor of Mother's Day and in honor of the theme of this week's show, which is silences, I recorded a show last week that I didn't release, so I'm going to release it today along with this. But I thought I would contrast two studies, one of Mother's Day in Nazi Germany that I wrote in 1986, and the other, Unspeakable, the extraordinary history of father-daughter incest in American history, and talk about things that silences, things that we don't that we cover up and don't want to talk about. So today's Mother's Day, and I thought that I ought to share a piece that I wrote in 1986. And Mother's Day helped to pave the way to Nazi Germany, according to Dr. Karin Hausen, professor of social history at the Technical University in Berlin. The holiday was introduced into Germany in 1922 by Rudolf Nauer, the founder of German Mother's Day, as he dubbed himself in the Nazi Party newspaper Völkischer Beobachter. Nauer, a business director of the Association of German Florists, which formerly affiliated with the Nazi Party in 1933, put together a coalition of right-wing religious and political groups to promote the holiday. In 1926, according to the national effort to promote Mother's Day, it was taken over by the Task Force for the Recovery of the Folk, a group dedicated to racial improvement. According to Professor Hausen, Mother's Day was used to promote Nazi ideology and to attack the decadence of the Weimar Republic. The Task Force for the Recovery of the Folk published numerous pamphlets in which they attacked the filth and trash that abounded in Weimar Germany. The Weimar years were portrayed as a nightmare in which beliefs in progress, free trade, female emancipation, pacifism, coeducation, equality, nudism, and free love dominated. The new holiday was seen as a means to educate people and to help stem the crisis of the family. Conservative religious groups took up the Mother's Day campaign as a way to fight against the Antichrist embodied in Bolshevism, which had come to destroy the heavenly order of the family and motherhood. The Nazis used such sentiments to build a coalition against abortion, contraception, and the psychic and spiritual dematernalization of women. The coalition included the sellers of confectionaries, perfumes, lingerie, clothing, porcelain, all of interest in expanding their markets in depression-ridden Germany. By 1933, the Nazis had declared Mother's Day the official folk holiday. With the support of the fundamentalist church groups, they closed down numerous birth control clinics that had been set up during the Weimar years. They forbade the distribution of contraception and increased penalties for abortion. Motherhood was glorified as a service to the nation and the race. Mother's Day was thus a means of bridging the contradictions within Nazi ideology regarding women and the family. The Nazis were able to use Mother's Day as a means of pulling together a coalition of pro-family, anti-abortion, anti-pornography groups. Sentimentalism, religious fundamentalism, and commercialism all helped to sell the program and led to breeding farms and death camps. By coincidence, Mother's Day arrives each year a week after Holocaust Memorial Day, and perhaps it's worthwhile to remember the connection between the two holidays. And that brings us to Lynn Sacco. This is an absolutely extraordinary study of father-daughter incest in American history. Between 1820 and 1900, roughly, Sacco found more than 900 newspaper accounts of father-daughter incest. Most of the stories were about prominent men, and if the guy was lucky if he wasn't lynched. Juries often convicted without deliberating. People were perfectly willing to believe that the pastor was a beast. After the turn of the century, and especially after the 1920s, everything changed. And Sacco believes that it had to do with a controversy among doctors and progressive social welfare people, the new public health specialists, over the cause of vaginal gonorrhea. It was simply not possible for all these little white girls from middle class, upper class, and upper class families who are contracting gonorrhea at the age of 5 to 9, unless the bacteria was easily transmissible. In the end, they removed gonorrhea from the class of sexually transmitted diseases. Science and medicine had thrown a cover over a crime. The doctors originally believed that gonorrhea infections were confined primarily to the poor and working class girls who had been sexually assaulted. Between 1890 and 1940, physicians uncovered evidence that white, middle class, upper class American men were sexually abusing their daughters. New diagnostic technologies developed in the 1890s led to the discovery of the prevalence of gonorrhea infections among girls under 12. Doctors found concurrent infections in fathers and daughters from respectable white families. This was particularly vexing. Doctors couldn't explain how these girls became infected, and they refused to consider incest. They persistently ignored the obvious. Healthcare workers and reformers revised their views about the susceptibility of girls to infection, not to incest. Medical textbooks declared that most girls acquired gonorrhea from non-sexual contact with other females or contaminated objects. In other words, blame was transferred from the fathers to the girls' mothers or other girls or toilet seats. Scientific advances, ironically, obscured rather than illuminated the source of the girl's infection. In the 1890s, when new technology significantly improved the ability of doctors to detect the disease, it became clear that girls from all classes, most of whom were between the ages of 5 and 9, tested positive for gonorrhea. And in fact, it was epidemic. Tracing the source of the infection would have revealed the high levels of incidence of incest in American society. No one wanted to believe that fathers were raping their 5-year-old daughters. Sacco argues that doctors, nurses, social workers, public health officials, and reformers mislabeled or even ignored the evidence of incest that they themselves had discovered. Physicians who believed that only primitive or ignorant men abused their daughters assumed that incest was contained within the African American, immigrant, and working class families. When the incidence of gonorrhea among the daughters of white and upper class men suggested otherwise, healthcare professionals revised their views of gonorrhea, not of incest. There's a very important work, Father-Daughter Incest, in 1981 by Judith Lewis Herman, in which she argued that incest was very common. Female children are regularly subjected to sexual assaults by adults who are part of their intimate social world. Any serious investigation of the emotional and sexual lives of women leads eventually to the discovery of incest. Herman's assertion could only be accurate if incest permeated American society as a facet of gender relationships. It has been recently claimed that more than half of all the women in the United States have been assaulted by the age of 12 as children, assaulted as children. The U.S. Justice Department in 1990 said that girls under the age of 12 comprised the single largest category of victims, and that most had been assaulted in their own homes by adult males who were family members or acquaintances. When a girl became ill, healthcare providers and social workers excoriated the mothers for their poor housekeeping and didn't waste time investigating the possibility of incest. Mothers' hands and dangerous things became the focus. The medical literature contained no research studies supporting this unequivocal declaration. Ignoring these cases that occurred in spacious, well-kept homes, doctors and reformers insisted that overcrowding and unhygienic surroundings predisposed to the transference of the disease, thereby shifting responsibility from infection from the father to the mothers and further widening the rift between sexual contact and infection. So that you had the notion of non-sexual infection. It was not until 1998 that the American Academy of Pediatrics emphasized that gonorrhea in a child is a diagnostic of abuse. And it warned physicians that a conclusion that transmission was non-sexual is unacceptable. Medical professionals believe that incest was prevalent among immigrants who do not value their children as highly as native white people. They can't believe that incest is endemic throughout the society. So what we have here is a fact that we can't face and that we prefer to hide and silence. The discovery of seemingly rampant sexually transmitted diseases among girls in the early 20th century raised a compelling threat to the status quo, Lynn argues, which healthcare workers, professionals, and reformers used their scientific authority to manipulate the evidence and to hide the reality. Had the sexual misbehavior of the fathers not been obvious all along, no effort to conceal would have been necessary. Not to worry, Lynn's book has been removed from all the libraries and is being replaced by Hallmark cards honoring Mother's Day. With that, I think I'll bring this week's bad news to a close. I think that's bad enough news. I think that one of the things that has been evident to me is that however much we look at all of our current situation as representing something drastically new, tremendous change from the past, it's not really. I mean, all the damage that's being done is obviously the institutions that have collapsed, they're gone. It's over for us. But all of our nasty bad traits have deep roots in our history. So I'll leave it there for this week. I wish you all the best for the next couple of weeks. I will endeavor to return. It's been trying times for me. My body is giving me a hard time. So I'm going to release 2 shows this week, and I will see you next week. Stay safe and be well.